I know prices can vary from city to city and maybe in special events, but $100 for a hamburger? What the heck?
This is aviation, intrigue.
Elaine, I'm a vegetarian, so I have no idea about hamburgers. How much do they cost?
Well, it depends on where you go get your hamburger and where you are across the country. But as we all know, the prices have gone up. If you go to a typical burger joint that's got maybe grilled hamburgers and you can top them off. So we're not talking maybe your typical fast food drive through, but what people might consider, okay, a favorite place or a favorite local place. I would say that they're getting upwards of $15 to $18 for a really good one and sometimes a bit more.
And I assume that if you go different cities, or if you go to your carnival or events or in the stadium, prices can be up or down.
Yeah, in the stadium. And, you've probably been to sporting events where you notice that, okay, just to get a sandwich can be $25. Or you go to
Yep.
something like an outdoor fair or county fair, okay, $20 hamburger, a $15 hot dog. That's going to be pretty typical these days. And even if you go to a sit down restaurant, they can be at least that much. And we're talking, again, maybe a pretty good hamburger, maybe a pretty good place, but it depends on where you go.
So what's up with the $100 hamburger? Who the heck goes and pays $100 for a hamburger?
Yeah, we'd like people to tell us if they've heard about something called the $100 hamburger, because that is a really, really common term in aviation and personal flying, where the $100 hamburger basically represents a certain kind of activity. Guess what that is?
So it's not a fancy restaurant you go to with a tuxedo or something like that, and everything, the chef comes and prepares it in front of you.
That probably wouldn't be a hamburger. We're talking a steakhouse, right? And we don't even want to talk about those
That's what
prices.
happens when you talk to a vegetarian.
Wait, we can't get into steaks because that's not at all what this is about. This is your casual handheld food, at least. It's usually hamburgers, and it's usually maybe a pulled pork sandwich, or basically nothing you would care to eat then, Gopal. But there is this thing called the $100 hamburger in flying that is basically flying somewhere to go get a burger or the equivalent of that. And by the time you gas up your airplane, and we're talking about those light 2 and 4 seat airplanes that you and I have love to talk about on this show, and let's say you go fly 30, 40 minutes, take a friend along, take a spouse along, and by the time you get there, have your burger and go back, that's going to cost you about $100.
Ah, I get it. It's the hamburger itself is not $100, but it might cost you $100 or even more to get to the place to eat the hamburger. And now you're a fancy pilot flying in your fancy airplane.
Yeah, we're talking not fancy airplanes, because we've talked about the all the elements that go into flying a personal airplane. If you have one of those little 2 and 4 seat airplanes, you're spending these days, gas prices have gone up. Same thing with the typically the low leaded gas that's in a typical small airplane engine. That's going to cost anywhere from $5 to $6 at a local airport. Sometimes more in a big city, you're paying upwards of $7 to $10 a gallon for that same kind of gas. But on average, we'll call it in the $5 to $6 range. And if you're out at a small local airport, okay, and a typical airplane of the size we're talking about will burn maybe 6 gallons an hour if it's a pretty small airplane, or even smaller, but sometimes upwards of 8 to 10 gallons an hour. So then if you do the math, it'll cost you maybe $60 an hour to go somewhere, and you fly for half an hour, about $30, $40. Again, depends on the size of the airplane, the size of your engine. But if you put all that in an average, the $100 hamburger is where that comes from. Now, this term was invented probably decades ago, and we may even call it now the $200 hamburger, but that expression is still very popular.
So inflation, huh? So when I got my pilot certificate way back when, I flew my wife to Rutland, Vermont, I think. And we there was a restaurant right there at the airport, and we had food. So that's the $100 hamburger equivalent to a vegetarian.
Yes, there are really popular places all around the country where if you have a restaurant on the airport, that is going to get a lot of flying activity because people are always going to want to fly in, walk into a restaurant, and that is really the fun of it. And it goes further than that, though. Yeah, airport restaurants are really popular, and that's probably where the expression $100 hamburger was born because it's a very regular activity to go fly somewhere not too far away to go out for breakfast, lunch, or even dinner. But they took that concept even further, especially in the Midwest, with this thing called the Hamburger Social. We'll talk about that next.
Okay, so you mentioned a hamburger social. What is that?
Yes, that's taking the $100 hamburger concept a little bit further. So recently, I've noticed that around the Midwest, there were these hamburger socials popping up. And I thought, wow, that sounds really fun. Hamburgers and social. So I looked them up, and there's a website that is gathering information for like pilot groups, local chapters of EAA, where they're based at a local airport, and say, okay, we want to have a social event and maybe we want to raise a little money. Kind of like the pancake breakfast we've talked about. Those are generally raising money for charity, raising money for local pilot groups. And somewhere along the line, I'm not sure who, said, well, we'll have a network around the Midwest for hamburger socials. Because if you fly into Northern Illinois, in my case, or Northeastern Iowa, you can still make that $100 hamburger. And so they're advertised in this region as the hamburger social. And what's interesting is that they're not like the pancake breakfast that go on Sunday mornings for a few hours. These are 2-hour events on a weekday, generally 5 to 7 p.m., where you can drive in, fly in, pay about, I think, $10 for a hamburger and all the side dishes, go socialize, and you can fly home and get there before dark. And it seems like a model that is really catching on for these weekday early dinner social events.
So it's not a pilot only thing.
Definitely not a pilot only thing. In fact, this is a great way, like we talked about with plane spotting and fly-ins, to drive in, because anybody is welcome to drive in, get in line, get a burger, sit down outside on it's basically a group cookout day on a really cool environment, which is basically your local airport. Talk to people, look at airplanes, and have fun with that. And it's short enough where people can drop in after work. I've seen that happen all the time, where people drop in after work in their cars, even if they're pilots, to stop by, say hi, and grab a burger.
So for some people, it's $100 hamburger. For some people, it's a $15 hamburger.
Sometimes it's a $15 hamburger. And from what I've seen, the average price of those, while it may have gone up in the last year, is still about $10 for a hamburger.
Right, but you're not spending airplane gasoline and airplane costs to get there if you're driving.
Yes, or let's say you're a pilot who's already based there. Okay, you may be one of the people helping to cook and serve the burgers, and that's a great way to socialize with your fellow pilots. You're not spending any gas money on your airplane that day, but it's still a lot of fun.
So you mentioned a website in the Midwest. So how do people find out about this? If I wanted to know what's going on around me, or if I'm visiting somewhere and I want to find out, is there ways to find out?
Yes, obviously online is the best way. We put a few links on some places, including around the Midwest, in the show notes. And these are online calendars. If you find out about them, you can bookmark them, look them up by state, by city, by airport, and see what's going on around you. The fly-in calendar is also something like the $100 hamburger. People who are looking for destinations, places to go, especially ones not too far from home, can look at these calendars and say, okay, there's a hamburger social next Wednesday at 5 o'clock at an airport only a half hour out. I've never been there before. Let's grab the kids and go. And if the weather's not good, maybe you won't make it that day. But I've noticed that a lot of these hamburger socials are going on a regular basis. They are sometimes even once a week, once a month, throughout that summer and fall. We talked about how summer and fall are the most popular months of the year to fly, especially when you've got the 4 seasons. That's when you're going to find that. And then in other parts of the country where it's warmer, you're going to see a lot of these food-oriented events going on all the time.
So these might be happening sort of on a regular basis. And if you know it happens every second Thursday or whatever, then you can make sure that you put it on your calendar and get there.
Yes, and like we mentioned, anybody's welcome to drive in, fly in, walk in, go with a friend, go with a family member, and what a great way to meet new people and see new things.
Sounds like a good combination of food and aviation. Sounds like a good combination here.
Really good combination, and these things spread by word of mouth too. So you'd be surprised at how these events have grown, and they are getting really, really popular.
Well, let's talk about what else is involved other than food when we come back.
So the hamburger social seems to be a lot more about just going out to get something to eat, isn't it?
I think that's the cool part, right? The food is what gets your attention. That's what is on the poster. And wow, I want to go eat. It's pancakes or hamburger, whatever. But when you get there, it becomes a community building. It is about interfacing with other aviators, other pilots, other non-pilots, mechanics, even family things. So I think it becomes a real social event.
Absolutely. I really think that is what draws people more than a $10 hamburger or a $10 pulled pork sandwich. And by the way, they do have potato salad and ice cream at these things, so it's still really going to be about the food. And it's fun to see all the different things people serve along with their hamburgers. But like you said, it's a lot more than that. People go there to see other people and have fun. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah, I think similar to other hobbies and activities, let's say race cars that I'm personally involved in, or bicycling, exercising, whatever it is, the group part of it, socializing and talking to like minded people, sharing ideas, sharing experience, learning from others. I think is a very, very big part of the community. And these hamburger socials are, yes, the food gets you in the door, but then you socialize, you learn, you share. And that's the best thing about aviation community.
Yes, people talk a lot about when you go to any kind of flying event, it's actually not really about the flying because half the people who are there probably drove for one reason or another, or maybe it was because the distance was short enough to drive or the weather wasn't good that day, but you're still going to get a turnout at these social events because people want to see old friends, make new friends, and really, really see, okay, who thinks what out there about this? What do you like about fall flying? What do you like about summer flying? What do you like about this airport? What else can we talk about? And if you think about it and talk to pilots, they are always craving that social element to aviation because a lot of people, for one reason or another, often fly by themselves or maybe sometimes with one other person. But even so, a lot of surveys of pilots talk about craving that social interaction, especially at an airport.
Yeah, I think that's true. Not just for pilots. If you're into, I don't know, Lego building or RC cars or whatever it is, there is the need to connect with other people who share the hobby. I'm also a ham radio guy, and I know there's a big community of ham radio enthusiasts that get together and they talk about it. It's the same thing in pilot. There is a clear craving to get together. And this is not necessarily an expert talking to somebody who's learning. This is people sharing experience with each other.
Definitely. And if you are even interested in aviation or interested in airplanes, this is a time and place to ask questions because let's say you can go up and look at airplanes and ask questions, and we've talked about how welcoming pilots are to share that with anybody who's interested in aviation, and you can get a lot of information on, okay, how can I do this again?
That's a very good point. Let's say I'm a little shy or I don't know much about airplanes, and airports are intimidating, right? I mean, I don't know the terminology, I don't know the technical parts of it. So if somebody shows up and they're not really an airplane people, I feel like this is a very welcoming environment to go mingle with people and learn.
Something like the hamburger social, and not even a time when you are even having a lot of airplanes, because some of these could be just small gatherings of 30, 40 people, especially when you're at a smaller out of the way airport. But if you are curious, this is the time to go up, have a burger, socialize, because it is probably the one of those things that is the least intimidating in terms of asking around.
Yeah, honestly, this is how we grow the community, the aviation community. And not only sharing among ourselves, but also expanding it, sharing our knowledge with other people who may not be in the aviation field and they want to learn, or maybe young people that we want to get excited.
Definitely. And it sounds like you don't even have to like hamburgers to like the social part of it.
Yeah, make it into a tofu burger. I'm there.
I don't know how popular a tofu burger social would be, but maybe we
Oh,
could put
come
that
on.
on the
That's a new
menu just
thing.
for you.
That's a new thing now. Tofu burger social. It's going to be a big in thing.
As long as we don't charge $10 for those, maybe people may be willing to sample, but we'll see about that.
Fair enough.
Have you ever been to a fly-in drive-in airport event or even a hamburger social? Tell us your stories in the comments.
This is aviation, aviation, intrigue.